I remember how strange it was on the highway that there is nobody on the highway. There's no one coming, there's no one going. And I'm driving and like ice going up my back. I can see a motorcycle headlight in the rearview mirror coming up like crazy fast, like a line of light coming from way back there. And I remember looking over my shoulder and then looking back up, and it goes to 2 headlights. Then it goes to 3 headlights. They turn red, and then they stack on top of each other, and it's right behind my car right now. And I stopped the car, middle of I-75, put it in park. I remember I opened the door, and I remember the lights hitting me, and my voice inside of my head says, "We are going to drive the car. We are leaving." It was a collective. It wasn't me, it was we. And I looked down at my hands, and they're not my hands. They're somebody's hands.
I do have some questions. Oh my gosh.
My guest today is Christopher George, who had a near-death experience. And since his NDE, he has had 15 of what he describes as events. He's going to go into great detail to explain these to you, but he believes that this is connected to the great awakening that we are shifting into right now. So, Chris, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such an honor.
Well, if our pre-conversation is any indication of what this conversation is going to tune into, it's going to be very unique. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, like based on our pre-conversation, if you were going to tell my story, it would be a cautionary tale of messing around with the phenomenon and the phenomenon messing with you back.
Okay. Well, that's definitely intriguing. So I say let's just get into it. I'd like you to just tell everybody your NDE in any way you'd like to share it.
Sure. So I grew up in the city of Detroit in the late 1970s. And there was gang warfare and a lot of chaotic, strange things occurred. My father, one night, a guy came to our door with a gun, and I don't remember exactly, there were police involved. And the next day, my dad's truck was gone, and we sold the house, bought my uncle's farm, and moved out to the country. So we move out to this farm, and I'm a 10, 11-year-old kid. I don't know anything about horses or farming. And my dad is he's a car salesman, horse trader, and he comes home with like 4, 6, 8 horses, 120 chickens, goats, ducks, you name it, just piled on. And as a kid, I had to learn all of this overnight because we knew nothing. I mean, I think we had a dog when I was growing up. So now I'm the proud owner of like all these animals. And my brother, he did the lion's share of the work. My sister kicked in. My grandmother would come on the weekends. But we'll go ahead a couple of years. So the NDE really occurs because I had this terrific accident. And have you ever wanted to be good at something and you tried so hard, especially with sports, you just couldn't excel much from the other kids? That was me in skiing. Like the whole goal of skiing is to go as fast through the race course as you can. And here in Lower Michigan, there's like 2 places to go, 3 places. And I lived right near Mount Holly, and Mount Holly kind of really serves in my story because a lot of really weird phenomena happen in and around Holly, Michigan. So I running gates one night after ski practice because I wanted to get faster and better, and I could. So you go out and there's a big ice spud. It's about, it's so heavy, and you just drop a hole through the ice and you put the bamboo gate in, and then if you knock the gate down, then you'd go back to the top of the course and ride through the course and time yourself or your friend would time you, and we just do it over and over again. And so one night I'm about halfway down the course and gate's broken. So I pull over, grab the spud, and I get run over immediately by someone who's never skied before. Like a 300-pound dude just ran me over, and my head slingshotted into the ice and caused irreparable brain damage and knocked me out. And they put me into basically an induced coma with medication because my brain was swelling and they couldn't tell, hey, we're going to cut the top of his head off and let the brain swell out. And thank God they didn't. So it's very, like, even talking about it is incredibly painful because of the unbelievable fire burning dragon in my head pain that I went through, and still to this day from time to time will re-experience. But I remember the hospital room. I remember feeling the cold rails on the side of the bed. I remember hearing the machines. They didn't intubate me or any of that stuff. I did have oxygen on, and there was lots of stuff tied to me, and I couldn't move. I was immobilized. I was laying there and just going through waves of this sonic hot pain. And my mom crying and praying. I could hear her praying, and I was praying in my mind inside as she was praying, and I'd repeat the prayers. Just, and at some point, the pain got so great that someone came to retrieve me. Somebody. It was a male. I can't see him. I am up in the drop ceiling. I'm above the bed, and I know I'm in the drop ceiling because I can see the backside of the halogen lights in the ceiling. And I can see the wires that are holding the drop ceiling. I'm in the fucking drop ceiling above the hospital bed because I was in so much pain that I'm hanging out up there. Because if I was up there, it didn't hurt as bad. I just remember like bouncing back and forth. So at some point, I come back down, and this man takes me, and we go into, I don't see a tunnel of light in my memory. The whole memory was erased, by the way, and through quantum healing, hypnosis, I got to re-experience some of it as much as my spirit would allow me to. Some of the things are off limits. Some of the other things I'm going to tell you are also off limits and scary to talk about and push you and prod you, is they can take your ideas and your memories and do real funny things when you're looking at them from hindsight. But I remember the infinite vastness. I remember not being in pain any longer. I do remember how the correlation of looking at the light was also looking at knowledge and taste and every sensory perception you've ever had cascading through you simultaneously, and knowing all things and hearing this insane music. The sound, if you can imagine angelic choirs and its information and its knowledge and its a cascading thing you'd want to hop on and take a ride on. It's unbelievable. I'm only allowed in the space to go so close, based on my own limitation, based on how much I had charged my spiritual sonic battery, right? How much juice you actually have, not the juice you think you have, based on right words, action, thought, prayer, like whatever it is that we can do input wise here in the body. And that's the power of being in the body right now, is that we have an opportunity to charge that fucker up so that when we go there, your greatest wish is to be as close to it as possible, if not complete integration, at which point you would disintegrate, go back out into the ignorance, darkness, and walk your way back through the labyrinth, because your soul, God wants his creations to co-create with him. And as I'm laying and I'm there in this infinite space, here's a really cool, interesting thing. And I've contemplated it over and over and over again. The guys in the back, there's absolute darkness over there. There's absolute unbelievable light over here, right? That's just for the sake of like trying to describe this undescribable thing that appears to everyone differently based on your consciousness. In my thought form, they're the ignorant ones, the dark ones that don't want to go to the light, that are way back there in the back row. And even seeing the light of the divine God, unbelievable, infinite creator, would in ignorance just stay in the darkness by their own choice. And then the layers and the layers and the layers and the layers and the layers of entities in between that, in the full consciousness of the expression of whatever this thing is that is all things and all knowledge in all space. And these words do not do it justice. I'll never do this justice. It's unbelievable. And the fact that I can only go so far, and I correlate this to an X-ray. When I hit my stopping point, I was with my guide. I see him to my left. It was like a choice point, and I was like an X-ray. You could take my consciousness and my soul and all the things that I'd done in all my lifetimes, and you just shove it up in front of you in the light, and you can see every scar and blemish and miscreation and every miscreated thought and every belief system and all of that which was not it was obvious. So I remember, here's a memory. I remember trying to fight it and the fruitlessness of trying to fight, looking at all of your shit. And absolutely my enthusiasm to want to go closer to the light. And the only way was back in the room with the drop ceiling and the beeping stuff in my body. And I'm absorbing and taking in, and it's so great and it's so vast. And I'm full of all knowledge, and that's, there's no question that isn't answered. There's no, it was like the greatest aha, like studying for a test and like knowing the whole book and all of the other books and your friends' books all at once. And I got to give that up. I don't know I got to give it up, but I got to go back to the only way is back to the vehicle that is broken to fix it and raise the vibration in the battery so that I can come back and get one step closer. You do anything just to be a foot closer. It's so delicious. It's so unbelievable. And so I go back. And the re-entry is rough, NASA. I remember going into the body in the hot, searing, unbelievable, demonic pain rushing over me and being in now a body that needs medication and all of that stuff and breathing. I could hear my mom praying, and I'm like, oh my God, Mom, if you could see what I just saw. And my memory of it is still there. Yeah, I'm correlated in the body, and the body's fucked up, and I'm in there in the memory going like this, and it's going away. And I take my thumb, I put it with my right hand. Here's my right hand. Took my thumbnail, put it into my finger, and I pushed and I pushed. It was the only thing I could do. Like, I couldn't feel my body. It was on fire. Once again, I can't even describe the pain. And I'm just pushing and pushing and pushing. I won't forget. I won't forget. And I was left with like fragment. But this experience damaged or changed my envelope. So I'm a little different. No different than anybody else because we're all unique. But my difference is that little crack to that experience has a leak. And throughout my life, can imagine, so I'm a kid in high school. Before this has happened, I'd be laying in my bed, and we lived in this quaint little farm town, kind of outside of a farm town. And I'd be laying in my bed, and I would see a light. My eyes closed. I can't move. And I'd wrestle myself to open my eyes, and I'd look out at the barn because we had a light at the barn. It's not at the barn anymore. It's just outside of my window. And I fall asleep. Don't remember anything. Another night. Here comes the vibration. Here comes the light. This is all like before the NDE and then after. So there's so many I could, but I remember there's a light. I'm wide awake. I look out the window. I swear to God, there's a white glowing goat's head outside of my window, irradiating this massive goat head. That's how, once again, the phenomena is able to, and when I say the phenomena, it's everything. Because, you know, some people want to say UFOs and this and that, and then there's God, and then there's Jesus and Yogananda. It's really all one thing. Because it's all, if you look at it, if everything's fractal, everything is connected. There's a lot of wacky people out there that'll tell you their story because they're looking at it from one little vein of the crystal. They don't see that the crystal is a holographic matrix of thousands of things correlating all together. By the way, the ancients knew that in one crystal, you could have the entire Smithsonian's knowledge in one little crystal because of its ability to weave into itself in the way it's created. And we are crystalline. So I'll get to that crystalline nature of who we are as we talk maybe. But I'll just give you some of the finer points is that one night I'm traveling out of, like, I can tell I'm looking at the ceiling of my bedroom. I'm in my pajamas and I'm going, my mom painted a racing stripe up on the ceiling. I'm looking at it now. This is great about remembering. And I'm going through the window, then I'm out in the field, and then I'm down in the field, and the horses needed to drink up in the front field. So we had a little corral with like someone's farm sink that we put out there. We filled, and I just remember looking at the farm sink and feeling the dew on like the tall, like almost like a tall wheat grass kind of that was up to my chest because I was little. And I remember just floating out with, I don't see a creature or a being, but there's definitely some sort of a ship that I'm going towards. And then I wake up the next day, like that was crazy. And my pajamas are all wet with grass on them. They're still on, and they're on like weird, feet are backwards, or it'll come together. Trust me. So these experiences, the near-death experience was told to me. So of course I'm in high school, I'm 15 years old. And I have to come back from this unbelievable wrecked brain. I have to relearn how to walk and talk and read. And I've got a black patch in my vision over here, and math is impossible, still corny for girls and don't know what to do about it. And, you know, but what I had going for me is my dad was a used car dealer. So he always had cool, like he had hundreds of cars, and he would come home with like the coolest car, and I could like hop in it and just, I got into a high speed chase, beaten by the police. And then that went away for a while, but I came back, got my license back, and we moved on towards high school and then college. And I'm on a quest, man. I am on a quest to find out what the hell was that? What happened 3 years ago, 4 years ago? Like, what? Because what's crazy is my mom's sister was a visionary of her time. And she had some wild stories, and I didn't really believe half of them. But when I was like 11, she gave me Seth Speaks, and I read it. I couldn't understand it, but I read it anyways. And I looked, think about it, pre-internet, like I would go, there was one spiritual bookstore in like Flint, Michigan, and I think they had an old copy of Course in Miracles and God knows what else. But I read everything I could. I would try, if there's a weekend workshop, I go here and go there. It's wild. I do remember when I was little, we went to a funeral, and at the funeral, there was a guy who had died and come back to life. And he walked through the audience in the crowd, And he walked up to my parents and he pointed at me and he said, he is, there's something here. And he sat down with me and I thought this guy's really weird. He looked like a missionary from like preacher from like a Baptist church with like a pink or a peach suit and like dyed white curly hair. And he looked bizarre, like a Andromedan just visiting. But I just remember that. And as the years go by, we get to college and I remember, so there's a night and I got a hot date. It's a Saturday. I remember it was a Saturday. It was like cold. My dad gave me a car off the lot and it was like a 1983 Chevy Cavalier baby blue with a broken moonroof. So I took a box cutter and an old box and I cut the box and taped it up and I put it into the broken hole where the moonroof was and I duct taped it from the inside to the outside so it wouldn't fly away. And it's a Saturday night and something overcomes me and says, dude, you got to go home right now. You got a hot date. Like, you're going home right now. It's almost like where we have these different personalities in us and some version of myself was talking to myself from, many years later, looking back. And as I've been noticing with my own conscious choices, I'm noticing these bisected parts of me and personalities of me that are all synchronously talking at the same time or not, depending upon who you choose. I think it's important when we wrap it up, we'll kind of come back to that concept and how to integrate in what we're meant to be doing here. So I'm driving, I collect my clothes because they're dirty and they're in the corner and my roommate's probably pissed because there's a huge pile, and I take them all, put them into a wicker basket and hop out to the car. And it's an hour and a half from the university I'm at all the way to my parents' house. And it's a dark Saturday night. And I remember how strange it was on the highway that there is nobody on the highway. There's no one coming. There's no one going. And I'm driving and like ice going up my back. I can see a motorcycle headlight in the rearview mirror coming up like crazy fast, like a line of light coming from way back there. And I remember looking over my shoulder and then looking back up, and it goes to 2 headlights. Then it goes to 3 headlights. They turn red and then they stack on top of each other. And it's right behind my car right now. And I stopped the car in the middle of I-75, put it in park. I remember I opened the door and I remember the lights hitting me. And then I'm in the running car in my parents' driveway 2 hours later with the worst amnesia feeling. No memory of what happened. Not even QHHT showed me what that one was. So I could go on and on and on, but I won't, because there's a point to be made here. For those that are curious about life and death, that experience, the death experience, has a feeling, a palpable feeling that unfortunately, even all of the other NDEers that I bumped into, no one remembers the feeling. I remember the sound and the feeling and the vibration because it's a thing. And it's the same feeling that pops back in when I've had these like incredible nightmares, or the solar flare goes off, or if I've been meditating for too long or not enough, or I drank the wrong beer, or I took a magnesium tablet the other night. Because I think my chemistry is so strange, the slightest thing can push me through the door. And so when I was a kid, the thought was that I was at least given this image, which is, imagine you walk up to a doorway and it opens and you look through the doorway, and off in the distance is another door that is open, maybe 30, 40 feet away. Between the 2 doorways is like a white line of light, a tightrope. and it connects the two doorways. And everything between the two doorways is infinite space, static television from 1978. The trick is you have to go from this doorway to that doorway without falling off of the line. Now imagine we walk halfway down the line and the line runs maybe through your belly button, source of power. It is correlated to all that is connected to that divinity that I saw in the light. But everything that is not of the light is screaming for help and to be seen. But we tend to hide it and put it and package it somewhere in our energy body. A great shaman showed me that he could, in Peru, he could walk right up to me. He'd never met me and look into your energy body, and he could see where the packets of all of the unforgiven material were. And he could say, when you were 26, you were in a car accident. When you're 15, you had a near-death experience. That was cool. And he's speaking in Quechua to this guy who translates it to me. And then met a few nights later, an event occurs, which maybe we'll get to in a little bit. The event is like a recurrence of that feeling from the NDE while I'm still here. Unfortunately, I have no control over when it happens. So when you're driving a car like last night in a snowstorm and it happens, you have to go into your center and ride this thing out, because I'm just feeling the cosmic rays that are coming from the sun. And I'll explain how the cosmology of the sun and the great central sun actually work, and how that energy is coming to us now, and how it's informing all of us, if you know it consciously or unconsciously. But if you can consciously create with this and know what's been hidden and what's been intentionally hidden and what they're trying to block from us, we can move through this time with a lot more ease and grace. But it's going to be bloody. You had some questions.
I do have some questions. Oh my gosh. First of all,
I know.
I
haven't even started.
Incredible. I know. I told everybody from our pre-conversation, I knew that this was going to be very, very deep. These are my favorite conversations. But I want to go back to your NDE, because you had some really interesting things within that. So first of all, you say that the man is on your side, and then later on you called him a guide. Explain to everybody who this, as you understand it, who this guide was and why you think that guide was there with you.
Okay, I'm going to say something really weird.
I love it. Please do.
So my sister was married to a guy who I really liked. And he got into the marijuana business like 8 years ago when it was really hot, and they were growing weed, and he would make these edibles. And one night he took a whole bunch, like way too much. I'm not a weed guy, so he claims that he had a near-death experience in which he was out of his body, guiding me after the wreck out of my hospital room to the light, and he was there with me.
I believe it, because early on in my NDE interviewing career, I interviewed a man named Dennis who had a marijuana cake. He didn't understand how much was in it and ate so much of it. He had a near-death experience. So I'm not even shocked by that at all. That could have happened.
Yeah, but I used to play in a rock band. We were really popular back in the 90s. And someone snapped a picture. I have it here somewhere. And in the smoke over my shoulder, I'm on the stage at there's a big theater in downtown Detroit. There's this guy with wings and almost like a 1970s beard and curly hair in the smoke. I figured that's my dude. So I talked to him. I don't actually necessarily hear him back, but I know it in theory exists. We must all have guides. I'm not lucky enough to walk with my guide daily. I'm not a channeler, but I've channeled. And I would really very much like to meet him and sit with him and pray with him.
And I'm sure you know him better than you can even imagine that you know him. You just don't remember.
It sucks.
Yeah, I get it. All right, let's talk about this knowledge. You said you're looking at the light and there's a knowledge, and it's a knowledge
Mhm.
of all things. I have also experienced this. But when we say knowledge, my experience wasn't like knowledge the way that we think about it, where we read something and memorize it in a book or know a formula. It was much different than
Have
that.
you ever taken mushrooms?
Yeah.
Do you know when it really hits and you get that wave of knowledge, like, whoa, duh. That's what I'm talking about. You're there and it goes, whoa, what? Oh, yeah. Such excitement, such authority and excitement because it waves through you. It's like answering the puzzle at the end of the game, like you're two steps into the game, like the whole revelation of all of it, right there, buddy. That's the kind of infinite knowledge that we're talking about. That's overwhelming sledgehammer understanding, and take it as much as you can. But it's there. It's a reality beyond reality. And that's what's coming to the earth now
Yes, I agree.
for everybody, and for the ignorant, and for the guys in the back of the room that have chosen to stay back there. That's where this bifurcation occurs, right? You can stay watching the news and who got executed this week, because there's going to be a whole list of them coming up. They'll do anything to keep us in the back of the room. Dangerous words.
Tell us why it's dangerous.
Because for so long that even our government has had knowledge of all of this and how it actually molecularly works, and they try and replicate it with machines, which they've successfully done to a certain degree. I don't know if you've heard of the dog whistles or any of the things that are being done in the UFO phenomena. But there's so much more technology, but it can never emulate the power of what Yeshua had told us about initially, is that which I have done, you shall do this, and even greater than you. Yes, even greater than you. Fuck yeah. I want that.
Who doesn't want that?
Well, that's where we're at. That's where we're at, is that we've been going around and around this earth in so many incarnation cycles. So we're on another planet that we fucked up, right? Blew it up, became the asteroid belt, the good old Maldek, right next to Mars. And Mars was the moon of Maldek, I think, based on what I've been shown. And we have gone through elevation cycles of incarnation from place to place, planet to planet. We got here, and the cycles of Lemuria and Atlantis and the things that, all that forbidden knowledge has been held away from us over and over and erased and redacted like a CIA document with just black lines through it. Even the story of this amazing astral traveling Yeshua who came here, son of Joseph, and ascended master who went through all the initiations through the pyramids and beyond. You can look at the story of Saint Isa, where he goes to the east, and all the same problems happened to him later. As he shows up into town, he sees the caste system as being wrong. Even the great masters and the gurus are like, man, this guy's causing trouble. People are listening to him. He can learn their language and speak in their tongues. And they try and kill him, and he gets out of Dodge and makes his way, So then some of the story that we were told is true, some of it's not. But his knowledge is being revealed, honestly, for the first time now.
Yeah.
And it's a one-to-one. It's to you and to me and everyone else out there right now. As much as you went to church and you thought you were praying and maybe somebody's listening, someone's listening. And this relationship can be forged. If it's Jesus for you, awesome. His friends called him Isa. You can call him Isa. He doesn't mind it. and he's available. And there are so many others too, though. We had this incredible sage named Paramahansa Yogananda who came here and comes from this incredible lineage that goes back to this incredible sainted being whose name should almost not be spoken. The great Babaji, who has lived in and out of bodies for thousands and thousands and thousands of years and will stand by your bedside and pray with you. You just have to say his name.
Of course, you had to mention Babaji today because I interviewed Reverend Bill McDonald.
I just got off the phone with Bill.
Come on, shut up. I just released this video today.
I'll show you.
Because this is the synchronicity of my life.
Oh my God. Can I give you Bill's advice for today?
Yeah.
Bill's like, Chris, as I told him last night I had an event happen, right? I mean, he's nonplussed. He's like, I'm telling him, like, I'm literally space traveling in my car at 80 miles an hour through a snowstorm, and I'm like getting downloads. Oh, and I'll tell you about the downloads of what I got last night here in a minute. He's like, Chris, if you're sitting with Master, he's talking about Yogananda, so great student for the Yogananda. He's like, if you're sitting with Master would just say, it's all the little things. You're just, you know, it's just like birds chirping. These things are going to happen. The problem is everyone is looking for the high point. Everyone's going and taking ayahuasca, forcing this spiritual experience, right? With no net to catch you, where you just get forced into that infinite void and have no control. And what we were asked to do is to learn how to create the musculature around our spirituality so that we could, at will, choose to travel and visit, because we have those abilities to go to each other, to heal through thought. We're doing it all the time. It's just we have dirty thoughts and they're misdirected. So we're miscreating as quickly as we're creating. So everybody wants to, you know, watch The Secret and get $1 million. But the reality is like, if you looked at the timeline of all the muddy thinking, you created exactly what you were constantly thinking about and feeling about at the same time. When you put the feeling expression with the thought, that's when the co-creation of the universe goes, your wish is my command. Here's what you get. And Bill is very good at like wiping the bullshit off and just being like, Chris, okay, that happened. Let's move on. What's happening today? How can you sit at the traffic light and see the guy with the sign over there and really send him and be him and literally bring love and light into his life, not against his will. So here's the thing is like, when I was a kid, got the farm, my mom went to the feed store. The feed store is badass, by the way. You show up at the feed store, ladies in cowboy boots for no reason, and like, you know, cool trucks, and you know, there's candy. So I'd go in to get the candy, and they had like a whole thing of like little baby chickens, and there's 50 of them in a carton. And if you bought one, you got a bag of feed for it. So my mom bought 3, and 3 of them with 150 chickens in our basement. In like, my mom's like, that's science fair this year. We're chickens. We got this. I'm like, awesome. Put the lights up, the feeders. I don't realize that chickens are animals. They eat each other. They're horrific little demons. And I can't wait for this little chick to hatch. So I go and I take a spoon or something and I break the egg and I let this little guy out of his egg. I'm like, badass. Next day, he's dead. The other chickens have eaten him because he didn't have the musculature through pecking away at the shell, our karma, that he needed. I robbed him of his experience. And that's why I'm saying when we're praying for people and we're with people, sometimes the egg is the divorce. Sometimes the egg is the broken heart or the unbelievable mistrust in God and people because they did it to me. And when we take that responsibility and look in the mirror, this cosmic mirror, everything changes. I'm going through this right now. By the way, I told you it's a cautionary tale. I'm broken in trying to put the pieces back together. And I don't think that story is really going to change much, but I have hope. And I've had these experiences and they continue to come. And as much as I tried to stomp it down and put it back in the toothpaste tube, that was a mistake. And I just say to everybody, as this time is growing shorter and the veils are thinning and the pressure is pushing and the story is going to, from one side, is going to do everything to push you to the back of the room. You just, like Bill would say, you just sit and you let it wash through you and feel it. Here's the problem. The problem comes, it hits us, we redirect it, or we point at someone else. They did it to me. We never really take our part in the play, right? Because you're an actor in a play and you read the script and you knew what you were up for. And we never get the benefit that comes from allowing the pain to come through us, to feel it, to let it wash through us, and then transform us. And in the transformation, we turn and we level up. And that level up is this light. And it's not what we thought. I thought, like, pray and wish for stuff. And then, like, the lottery ticket hits and, like, I get the girl with the big boobs and the fast car. And that has not been my experience at all.
I'm really glad that you shared the advice from Dr. Bill. I think that's good. But I also equally as much loved your egg analogy, because I think that that's super important too. And I just want to tell everybody, we're recording this on the 30th of January. I interviewed Dr. Bill on April of 2025. Somehow his interview never got edited and released on my channel. And last weekend, I felt this really big call to find his interview. I wanted to add it to a playlist. I couldn't find it and realized, son of a gun, I never even released it. So I edited it this weekend, and today was the day I released it. I knew there was something to it when this happened.
Oh my God.
Come on today and mention Yogananda and to mention Baba G, who he talked about deeply with these 50-year in the future visions he had at the age of 8 years old. You guys should check out this NDE. It's incredible. But not only that you're connected to him and talk to him today. Like, what are the chances? Zero chances of that being anything other than a divine orchestration of things that are going on that we can't even conceive of ourselves.
You could do a deep dive into Bill's work. I've just done a cursory look through it, and the first video I saw, I was like, oh,
I know, and he has, I put links for all 4 of his books that he has written on my show notes.
I don't want to blow up Bill, but I'm going to blow up Bill. You can literally go to Facebook, punch his name in, hit message, and he will call you back and talk to you. I was in the deepest, darkest place, like 5 years ago. I called up Bill. He called me right back, and we sat and talked for hours. He probably won't even remember. I'm sure I'm not the only one, because he's just one of those way showers that's here.
Talk to my sister as well.
I love your sister. And I'll tell you about a person that everyone should hear about, because you'll never hear. He's so wonderful, and he's gone now. His name was Haynes. His name is Haynes. And Haley grew up on a horse farm down in Texas back in the God knows when. When he died, I still don't know how old he was. The only way I found Self-Realization Fellowship was I read an article or something, and here in Michigan, Yogananda he was this force to be reckoned with in spirituality, because he brought the East and the West together. He brought the teachings of Jesus, but also the lineage of Yogananda goes all the way back to his gurus and Sri Yukteswar and Lahiri Mahashai. And then before them was the great master Babaji, who had appeared to all of them and had guided us, here to guide us now through this horrific time, this yogic cycle changing But there was this old man, and he would sit in the back of the room. And when you go to an SRF fellowship meeting, it's not like going to church necessarily, because half of it's just sitting in the silence. It's very hard to do at first. I remember how hard of a time I had there. And he would be right next to me. I'd sit next to him. And he had a long white beard he would leave it. We'd sit there. And just like Bill, I'd tell him about these wild experiences or these UFOs I didn't even tell you about, like crazy UFO stories. He'd be like, "Oh, that's nice, Chris." Like, just checking. Did you check in with yourself? Can you just let it go? Can you just see the phenomenon? Can you just see that things will come and go? And if, as you do these practices, see these abilities start to occur, it's just natural. It comes with, the package of beer, is that you're going to get a buzz. The buzz is going to go away. It's about the doing and the loving God and being in that space. Remember when we talked about the spaciousness of where that divine place is? There's the back of the room. There's the front of the room. You want to be in the room, and it's just sitting with it and letting it happen. And it's really hard because we want to make it happen. We've been turned and told to execute and try harder, and you can achieve the thing that you want. It's not how this works. This is Haley would have said something just like Bill. Because when I got on the phone with Bill today, I was like, oh, and I have his picture. And he would say, when I leave this meat suit, Haley would say, when I leave this meat suit, just like the fact that like his body meant nothing. And he went out horrifically, by the way. And in his last few days, I called him seeking his help. When I've had these events happen where I kind of go out of the body, and I was staying with, COVID happens. My partner at the time literally throws everything I have in the world out in front of the house, changes the locks right as it's happening. I am just completely devastated. I don't know what to do, don't know where to go. And I get on my phone. I'm like, oh my God. She's like, the police are coming. You got to it was bad. Call Haley. Like, Haley, I'm in deep stuff. And he's like, pause, go to master. Something will come to you. A thought, a person. I call the number. My friend Dave. Dave's like, get your ass over here. I got an extra bedroom. You can stay here as long as you need. A year and a half later, I'm still in Dave's house. I'm in Dave's house, and an event happens. Solar flare, God knows what. Then I'm in the bedroom, and I am swimming in space. Dave, by the way, is a Trump-loving, news-listening, absolute, we're in the craze of 2020 is happening and election cycles. And I'm not a political person. I don't take sides, so please don't. But Dave is not the guy to talk about the fact that you're having a reenactment of a near-death experience in his bedroom right now. I'm just saying. And I'm spinning in circles because I had seen that there was this Atlantean, you could rotate 40 times in one direction with your hands out and your eyes closed, and it can recenter you. So I'm doing that as this is happening, and I'm freaking out on the phone, and Haley's on speakerphone right there, and Haley's talking me down and centering me. And my point being is you could be in the storm of storms, and this is still available. You could be having nothing happening, and it's still available. You could be somewhere in the middle, and it's still available. These are what we were promised, what Yeshua had said to us, what all of these, and I could go and talk about all of these beings and all of the ones that have come. This is the time they were talking about, folks. Showtime is right around the corner. And
I agree.
Did you read your script? Did you do your push-ups? The push-ups are sitting and doing your hemi-sync, or seeing the kid and walking him across the street. It's little things, because it's all energetic. perfume. And if I sprayed the essence of Lori out onto it, is it going to smell like shit? Or is it going to be beautiful? And we are an essence. And as we go through the lifetimes, sometimes we're a compilation of all of these other people too. So I'm going to tell you about simultaneity if you have a minute.
Well, honestly, yeah, I do. I want to make one point about your friend Haley, because when you first started talking about him, you said this sentence, sit in the silence. And as you said the word silence, my attention was directed to my phone with a timer on it because I make notes. And it was 44 minutes and 44 seconds. There must be something significant about that. I have to ask you because that happened.
Oh, I'm going to offer this out to everybody, and I don't think Haley would mind. I know this because the way this cosmic thing works is there's an availability of souls, and especially ascended souls, that can come to your aid. And for the sake of coming away with something here, if you're ever in trouble, his name is Haynes. And all you had to do is say his name and just imagine a little old man with a long beard. And just the other night, he came to my rescue at 4:00 in the morning. I could smell him in my bedroom. We find there are so many Jesuses that have come to this earth that are people that got real close or went beyond, that we've never heard their names, and they live on an iceberg and they're staring with a spear, waiting for a seal, or on a mountain somewhere in Tibet, or all of the things that we thought were hidden that someone else had discovered that we'll never discover are available now. I don't know how it all works. I just see the revelation of it coming in my life day in and day out as I fight. So for me, it's been necessary for me to take on discomfort and dis-ease in order for me to recognize that potentially I don't need the dis-ease in order to, sometimes someone gets in a bad relationship or whatever because they're so energetically used to that pain, they wouldn't know what it's like outside of that realm. And I think all of us have some form of what I'm talking about in their life now, even highly successful people. But I'm just here to say you don't anymore need that discomfort or dis-ease in order to be healed. And you can show it to other people. And just recognize the only demon is your ego, and you'll see it and you'll feel it as it's coming up. And the more you keep track of where is the ego in this, as you're doing things, and you're talking to people and you're in situations, the better you get at it. I'm still learning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I'm going to ask you one more question about your first NDE, and then I want to get into these events, which are kind of almost like mini NDEs for you. You talked about the music, this insane music. You even said the angels, it was like they were singing knowledge, choirs, angelic choirs of knowledge. Have you ever, since that NDE, encountered any music that comes close to touching what you experienced on the other side?
Well, right over here, I've got a series of 6, 7, 8 of crystal bowls. And I've tried to replicate in my lifetime, in a former part of my life 20 years ago, I was exploring sound healing and frequency healing, and I still, to this day, something that always trying to replicate whatever that is. Really what it is have you ever sung with passion?
Yeah.
Have you ever sung out, but you felt it so much that it's you and it were in parallel in synchronicity? The wave works when the passion is correlated with the vibration. Vibration without the passion is just a sound. We can talk about this cosmic sound because I've heard it and it's come in my bedroom, and I've seen it as light coming into my bedroom. And when it comes into your head, it's once again like being in the big space where all the knowledge is in the sound because it's traveling on that emotion. If that makes sense.
Mhm.
You can't really break down what it is because it's so mystical and it is. And you'll notice, and like one indicator is that if you start to hear it, don't fight it. Because if you go with it, then the volume turns up and you go into the wave of it. Other people have tried to describe it through time. It's been described as the music of the spheres, that each planet in the orbits out there have their own musicality and can be summoned by simply finding that tonality. Some of the aliens work off of this basic concept because it's fractal in nature, and sound turns into light at the higher frequency. So sound is actually light, which is actually, right? So once again, everything is fractally connected. Sound is the easiest way for you to get out of a bad spot. So that's what I'll tell everybody is that using it.
Because who doesn't put music on to make themselves feel better?
What do you say when you get a boo-boo? Ah, right? Wow. The sounds come out of us and we're trying to, right? But does that mean the boo-boo sound? Well, my point being is that we are constantly, intuitively and inherently playing with this wave, and we just don't know what the music is. But I can't explain what that cosmic sound is because it's something you have to like only experience, and then in the experience of it, you're in it. You can't talk about it. It's kind of like Fight Club. Kind of. So beautiful though. It's so beautiful. And it's something that I hope. So here's the thing. Every single person out there, anybody who's listening, anybody anywhere, was in the sound before they came through their mom's vagina and will return to it. So you'll hear it again. When you're going to hear it, I don't know how many years you got, how many minutes you have left here, how many seconds of breath. There's only so many breaths left, but breath resonates in tone, the larynx and the pharynx and the voice box. But I'll tell you this, and this is knowledge that's been known here on Earth for a long time. The sounds that come out of your voice, like your voice specifically, or my voice, I can record it. And the expression of the sound as it comes out of this instrument directly correlates to all of my forgiven and unforgiven past experiences. And as you listen to new tones, your brain has to learn how to hear those tones, and you can get those new semitones, and your voice will actually be able to inflect with it. And you'll have an experience where you can release and forgive that experience, and it comes through you. There's a lady named Sherry Edwards who teaches us down in Ohio. You can go and do a voice print with her, and she'll play, like literally make the tones for you to listen to. And you have to almost entrain yourself to this ability, and then transformation can happen. So it's one way, but we're talking about how everything is once again entangled with the phenomenon, and the phenomenon is all of it. It's not one of it,
So we stopped after your NDE when you talked about the first event and you explained that. Do you want to go into some more detail?
So I'm in Peru, and a dear friend of mine who's wealthy allowed me to paint his house in order to pay for my ticket to go with him for a 2-week, all expenses paid journey with the Carol elders through Peru to every major place and do ceremony work. And I'd been reading some of the shamanic books. Once again, I'm a dilettante, so I try everything, see what sticks. A lot of it doesn't, some does. So we go to Peru, go to Pisac Mountain. Oh my God, in the mountain at night would start to radiate this purple color from the trees, and then the whole sky would go purple, and it would go up into the sky. And we saw stars come down and go in between the valley, between here and there, and then just disappear. But it was wandering around, and I met this lady from South Africa, like the most spiritual. She was 4 foot tall, 4 foot nothing. She had a crystal like this big and a crew of people that were following her around because she was a channeler. And I'm with this other group and I take off with them to go and explore because they're so cool. And we were doing chanting and mantra on the side of the mountain and magic was happening. You could feel it. It was palpable. So we're doing these ceremonies and days of it. And I go back to my group and we go to Machu Picchu and Picchu, which is the mountain behind it. If you ever go to Machu Picchu, everybody out there, pay the extra money, get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go stand in line and climb that crazy ass mountain behind it. It's called Picchu. That's where there's a cave on the backside. It's one of the most spiritual places I've ever been to. It's like Babaji's cave, man. You go in this cave and you make sounds and it echoes a very specific technology that was done. We're talking, this is Atlantean technology. And you will definitely be flying when you come out of that cave. It's unbelievable. But anyways, so like that night, I'm in bed. And I can feel it coming. I can hear it. I can hear the music. I'm like, oh, fuck. It's not a comfortable feeling when it comes. Can't run from it, though. In order to run, because all your unforgiven stuff is about to get faced. If I had less stuff, I probably would have a great time as these things happen. But this was years ago. This is 2012, 2010, 10, something. And I get up and I make it to, there's like a weird little turnstile bathroom with like a blue sink and a tiled wall. And it's hot as hell, but at least I can feel the sink is cold. And I look into the mirror and whoa, what a mistake. I go into the mirror and I go out into the doorway again, into that between the doors, stuck in outer space, trying to hold my center as all of the chaos of my unforgiveness is like raging. And I'm crying and I'm holding that sink. I was there all night. I was just like, there's something, and I don't know if this is a thing that, I'll call Bill. He doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about. I had to search to find somebody who could tell me what these things are. I went into a metaphysical bookstore selling internet and a dress for work, and she had a sign. I went in to buy sage and, some clearing stuff. And there was a Wiccan store, right? So you've got the pagan symbolatry everywhere and, crystals. Sign, it said $40, Reiki session. And I was feeling like shit. Something was coming on. I was not feeling good. I'm like, I'll take it. Let's do it. She's like, I have an availability right now. And she had like one of those like hippie bead, doorways. I grab my incense and my sage and I go back there. She's like, take your jacket off, lay on the table. She's got a massage table. She put her hands on me. And instantly I knew, oh boy, here we go. I started and it got really big, really fast. And she finished, I paid her. And I go to get to the car and my voice inside of my head says, we are going to drive the car. We are leaving. It was a collective. It wasn't me. It was we. And my hands, I looked down at my hands and they're not my hands. They're somebody's hands. One of those little Honda, the boxy one. What was it called? I don't even remember. The little Honda truck. And hopped in and started to drive. And I'm like, we are going to drive us home. And floating, my consciousness is floating above my body as we get home. I run the hot Epsom salt bath. I get right in. I'm laying in there. And this really intense thing happens. I expand out. And I am this woman with a cell phone and kids and problems and responsibilities. And she knows all about me. The two of us are actually the same person. She knows all about me. And it's so uncomfortable. I'm like, Lord. I'm thinking about, can I call Haley? And then I expand out again. And I'm this fireman, red hair, I remember, bad mustache, muscles, blue shirt, fire logo, on the job, cleaning up something or whatever. And I'm him, and I'm her, and I'm me. So I call this the ice cube theory, ice cube tray theory, right? So for the sake of spiritual economy, spirit pours into the ice cube tray, right? So I pour Lori into ice cube tray 1. I keep pouring, and Chris is in the one next to it, and the lady, whatever her name was, and the fire dude. But if you keep pouring, you get a common piece of ice that is across all of them. So just like the perfume analogy, we come here thinking that we're Lori and Chris, right? But in a way, when people everybody loves to say, man, everyone is everything, be everything, bro. In a way, there's a piece of ice that connects us to everyone and actually is everyone. The simultaneity of spirit living in multiple lives at the same time for the sake of spiritual economy, trying to move forward and overcome the karmas that have just constantly getting piled up. You know how you get rid of karma? Is just don't make more. Mind blown. Just don't make more. And I'm talking to myself. And I swear to you, in the days to come, these words will make some sense. Do not look at the television and listen to what they're telling us. Do not be guided down that road to the back of the room. There is such a powerful, powerful opportunity afoot for some, available to everyone. But for some who choose, I don't know how it plays out. Lori, I don't know. I know it's here. I can feel it. Everyone can feel it now. Everyone. I'm trying to put it into words, and it's impossible to do.
Yeah.
But just know that the level of deception that has still to be played out. And there's so many game plans that are all lined up on the shelf. Have you ever seen Raiders of the Lost Ark? And when they find the cool thing at the end of the movie, they go into the warehouse and they just stick it on a shelf. That's how much shit could potentially get pulled off the shelf for us.
This is a perfect place to ask you the question and remind you what you mentioned earlier, which is that you said the cosmology of the sun is coming to us now, and things are hidden and things are intentionally hidden. And I think this is the perfect place to bring that back in.
Okay. So if we go back to Babaji and all of those ancient Vedic teachings, the ancient Vedas and ancient China, they were marking the positions of the sun in space cosmically. And they knew as the years would go by, they could navigate, there's so much. And they saw things as yugas, which are these long cycles that shift and change, and that potentially we're pulling out of the last one going into the Satya or whatever. That you've heard of Kali Yuga, and there's so many. But the whole idea is that there's a progression of how living beings in a dynamic spinning earth, rotating around a sun, the magnetism and the pressure of the pool, like how far down you go in the pool, is different, right? You go to the bottom of the pool, your ears, you come up, oh, that's not good, this is good. That pressure is the spiritual pressure that's applied through these yugas. And that pressure is changing and scares the shit out of the powers that be, because you could fly as many airplanes with silver halide as you want to bounce off the cosmic rays. They're still going to do what they're going to do. And that's what's affecting us now. At the same time, you put enough toxin and stuff on top of that inside of you physically, mentally, spiritually, technology-wise, you can distract as much as you want. It's still coming. And it comes from the center of the galaxy. They call it the central sun. It's not one sun, maybe a million suns. Going back to my analogy of being in that outer space place with God over here, and there's a place where this cosmic knowledge is, and it travels out in all directions, and not in a way that we can really understand. It's not up and down, right and left, but it makes its way through the universe, and it talks to its little buddy, our sun, and sends it its information that it then reflects that information to us. So that relationship is an actual relationship, and we're receiving that guidance and that information, regardless if we like it or not. And what's happening now is we're coming around. It's a 26,000 year procession. We call it the procession of the equinox. Looks like a big egg, like where we're going around and we're flying, but we actually kind of travel up and down as we go through this procession. And we can kind of know because the ancients left us some signs on some tombs and some walls, and a little bit in Egypt and a little bit down in Peru. They're marking these things as they went around because they knew that there'd be a time when moving out of the darkness into the light, turning the corner and into this new age is what all of the gurus and sages were talking about. And it's kind of here. It's science in a way. I'm not a scientist, but I'm just somebody who, out of the curiosity of trying to figure out what the hell happened to me, is trying to figure out what will happen. And the power of this turd, imagine all the people that are of low energy that are in your life, no longer even existing. Poof, poof, poof. Imagine the job that you hate, and all, like, once again, anyone who's just like hooked on the media cycle, the news cycle, there's just too much stuckness there sometimes to shake it free. So you just lose your body and do it again later if you can. And if there's bodies left to come into, because there'll be a lot less bodies to incarnate into if some massive devastation were to occur. And I'm not going to really go down that road. But imagine, like, the morning of 9/11, when you turn the TV on and you see that, and you just stood there, how you felt. Imagine a feeling, but multiply it by 1,000. Don't have to do this. We don't have to go that way. We could. That's why I'm talking to you tonight.
Well, then let's finish off with the crystalline nature of who we are, because the pineal gland is the part that activates these near-death experiences, the soul coming into the body, the soul leaving the body, some of these transformative medicine journeys. And within the pineal gland are little crystals. But in the entirety of the body, we are crystalline beings. And you wanted to talk a little bit more about the nature of who we really are. So let's end with this.
Let's end with that. So I would say what you're really asking is how are things fractal in nature, and how does it work, and how are things actually interrelated? You've probably seen videos of, there's these, like, I don't even, it's like a Rorschach test or whatever. It's like an image. It's almost like an ink blot that's super complex, and you get closer into the image, and the littlest, tiniest piece of the image is the entire image.
A holographic.
The holographic in nature, right? Crystals kind of are like a perfect example of holding in your hand a holography, right? We call it crystal holography too. You know, they're piezoelectric and they do so many things, but inside of a crystal, there's so many hexes. If you could see it well with a microscope, there's so many hexes all going in usually multiple directions. They're always six-sided. Incredible technology that we have yet to truly rediscover how they actually work. And there are people out there, Lena Denon and so many, that have done their work with that, and Marcel Vogel, that rests his soul. But the crystallography in the body can be manipulated through sound frequency, meditation, mantra, and using the thought of moving energy up through the body and then down. I'll give everyone a takeaway. So a little practice. So this will help you to bolster the crystal nature of your body. So 15 feet away from me to my left, I've got a zip-in, I have a near infrared sauna over here and a steam sauna box over here. I love this sauna box. It's a great place for me to do my mantra and meditation and vibration work because you can get so much, you can do a lot of heavy lifting with like 20 minutes of sounding, just using almost any sound, but every chakra has a frequency and a sound and a tone. And the great sages knew that. That's why they give you your mantra. You weren't supposed to tell it to anybody, because it was very specific to what potentially your chakras could potentially at their highest frequency be. And they check in with you and take a look at you and just be like, okay, you've done your crystalline work. I'm going to change your frequency to this mantra. And they switch it just a little bit because now you have a new opportunity and you just keep doing that. And your guru would know because he's been working with you for so long and he can see where you're at. But doing vocal toning, it's not just making sound. It is getting right to the crystalline nature of what we really are. So in my process, I have one thing that I love to do, and it's the sound of, obviously everyone loves home. It is the creative source sound frequency that is behind everything. So if you say it 3 times in a row, and then I use the sound of what the Muslims would say is the name of God, Allah. And then the primordial creative sound of Hu, H-U, right? You could look and find, so you'll never find this all kind of compacted together because I've taken 5 different ideas. I use it as my own little technology to, especially when I'm stuck. So if you're really stuck, I'll sit and I usually do this seated. And I will be inside of the sauna and I put herbs and stuff in there. So as the steam is in there, I'm in a prayerful mode. Activate the chakras in your hands, right? You have energy centers in your hands and just sit. And I'll repeat Om Om Om, Allah, and then Hu down the front side of the body. Up the back side, I bring up heat. And the heat is clearing and burning. At the top of the head, I turn the corner and I go to ice cold water. And I imagine that ice cold water, and that's the sound Hu. It looks something like this. I might do this for 20 minutes in a row. Om Om Allah, Om Om Allah, Om Om. And the more emotion you have, the more powerful it can become. Om Om Allah, Om Om Allah. And then when I feel like it's built up the energy, I let out the here. And I feel that cold water going down the front. It's based on Kriya Yoga practice with the phenomenon. And the phenomenon is all of it. It's not one of it, a whole bunch of stuff all jammed together. But these are the times when everyone needs a little freebie that we need to be working on. And this is just my practice. Don't blame me for it. I'm not a doctor and I'm none of the things. But once again, cautionary tale on fucking around with frequency and frequency fucking with you back,
So, Chris, I would imagine there are people who are watching right now who would love to connect with you. I knew they said that you were going to blow up Reverend Bill, but let's blow you up a little bit. So how can people connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm working on a book if it ever gets done. And if you wanted to just find me, I have a group called U Army that I set up. So think about it, U Army, right? Like namaste and all of that crap. But the U Army is a conscious group of co-creators like us that are using any kind of like spiritual or neurological biohack towards getting better, using the things that are around us all the time. And so I have like a little, what I call the cookbook that I'm working on right now, which compiles all of the things that I've tried to get better with and so many other things. And hopefully there'll be a community of people that'll join in. I literally just put up a page and once in a while I put something on there. I forgot to mention one thing. I'd like to just give it like one shameless plug. There is a thing that I donate my time to, and it's an event that comes up once a year. We did it last year. It looks like it's going to be a huge success again this year. It's called, here we go, Contact Modalities Expo. So you can find it at contactmodalitiesxpo.com. And I get to hang out for a whole 4 days with all these luminary authors and speakers on talking about the phenomena. And I get to do, I do the stage. So I'm in charge of setting up the mics and putting the people on the stage. And at the same time, I get to hang out with Chris Bledsoe and his wife and his kids. And they're so amazing. It's just my curiosity got me into it once again, just a thing that I do all the time. And I'm just so proud of. And the lady who's in charge of it, her name's Melissa, and her husband, John, put all of their own finances in to make the thing happen. And they're just incredible people. And if anybody chooses to come, you can't not have a great time and go out and have some drinks under the stars and watch the stuff flying around at night. It's incredible.
Sounds incredible. These videos live in perpetuities. We were talking about March of 2026.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I'm working 2 jobs and just being a human right now. I also have a page called Keep Looking Up, and has everything to do with the paranormal phenomenon and relationship that we have with all of these other beings that are visiting us and will be continuing to visit us in our. We could talk for hours on that. I could go on for hours.
Well, since we could talk for hours, why don't you come back again? Then let's talk just about all of that topic, because that's a pretty big area to cover.
It is.
Yeah, I'd love for you.
I think it's going to be pretty self-explanatory over the next couple of years. People are going to see and experience things that no longer the toothpaste is out of the tube.
I totally agree with that. So guess whose video is by serendipity going to follow Reverend Bill's video on my channel? It is you, my friend. How about that? Chris George, your video will follow Reverend Bill's by divine timing.
I want to just shout out your sister. I'm not going to say her name, but I just want to say.
No, you can. I actually had her on my live, when she was in town.
An amazing mystic and visionary woman who's been through hell and back, and is here to show you how you can also go from hell to back. And she's helped me a lot, and just as a friend, and just so weird serendipity that today happened. And I don't know, but she's wonderful. And I just want to thank her from the bottom of my heart and for introducing me to you.
All right. Well, I want to thank her also because I call her out on this show pretty often, because she uses her intuition to reach out to the guests that we have on this show. She's been working with me for a long time. So we look at this as our project of love together. And she has been through hell because she developed juvenile diabetes when she was really young and had a kidney and pancreas transplant, and has gone through all kinds of issues because of her medical history, but all by divine timing. We joke around that she walked around with the cart and was like, I'll take this. I'll take this. I'll do this one too. And they were like, are you sure? Maybe you should put a couple of those back. Well, Chris, I want to thank you. I want to thank you, first of all, for your candor and your vulnerability and your passion, which I could feel throughout this conversation. And I want to thank you for what you are personally doing to help wake up the collective. It is so needed right now. And of course, this show is absolutely nothing without all of you who tune in to watch, to listen, and to share these incredible conversations with somebody who needs them. So thank you for watching.
Do you believe that love never dies and you want to hear stories that prove it? Well, hit the subscribe button. You belong here.